My name is Cheryl Hines. I am a Christian life coach, a certified mental health coach. I am also ministry leader of our Celebrate Recovery in Elkhart, Indiana. As ministry leader is at Celebrate Recovery. It's a faith-based 12-step program for anybody with hurts, habits, and hang-ups. As a Christian life coach, I work with anybody just learning how to live a different life and making different choices than what they have in the past. My Christian life coaching is through Professional Christian Coaching Institute, and that was online. And then my certified mental health coach, I got that through Light University, which is also online. My journey started in 2008 of my own recovery and my own sobriety. Not sobriety from addictions, but my sobriety from the hurts and the habits of my life. I married my children's father when I was 19 years old and was married to him for 21 years. My marriage was a marriage of brokenness. It was a marriage of abuse, verbally, emotionally, mental abuse. I married a man who was an addict, and I knew nothing about addicts. I knew nothing about addictions. I grew up as an Amish Mennonite little girl. I grew up as a girl who never had any kind of alcohol or drugs or any nicotine or anything in my home. I had a good home, good parents, great siblings. So I married a man who I didn't know was an addict until after I married him. And I was married to him for 21 years. And it was during those 21 years that I first learned of the term a dry drunk. A dry drunk being somebody who had not dealt with his own hurts, habits of life. But he was no longer drinking, but he was a dry drunk. And so after 21 years of abuse and 21 years of brokenness, I finally walked away. And in that walking away, I was broken. I didn't know how to be anymore. I didn't have an identity. I was in the church. I had served in the church. I had helped in youth, and I had helped with children's church, and I had helped with Sunday school. But I didn't know how to be and what my identity was, because my identity was brokenness. And in that brokenness, I turned to what I always turned to, and that was looking for another man to help fill the broken spot of my life. And very quickly, I remarried, married somebody else who, again, was an addict, again, was an alcoholic. And I didn't know that he was an alcoholic. I didn't know that his addiction went deeper than alcohol. And so in 2008, is really when my journey started of healing, my journey of recovery. 2008, I walked to the doors of Celebrate Recovery for the very first time. I went to support my second husband, and I very quickly realized that it wasn't about him, it was about me. It was about me being honest and truthful to myself and to others for the very first time. It was about me recognizing and understanding that I was not alone in the brokenness of my life. It was about me understanding that through Celebrate Recovery, God could and would and did want to bring healing to my life. So that's where my journey started. I also looked for a Christian counselor, and I was in intense counseling for over 4 years every week, where I learned how to be honest with somebody else. And I learned how to look at those places of my life. And I learned how to recognize why I made the choices that I had made. See, like I said, I came from great parents. I came from great family. But I was a middle child of 4 children. My oldest sister has a master's degree and is a professor at a college. My brother is brilliant. Retired 5 years ago. Worked for the government for 20-some years and was able to retire. My younger sister, who and her husband are ministers at a Spanish church where they live. So I was in the middle of a beautiful things, but I didn't know who I was. So I learned and I looked for love in all the wrong places, which is what I did with my first and second marriage. So I had to look at why I did what I did. And I had to come to an understanding that God says I'm a daughter of the King. God says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. God says that no matter what the story of my past is, He can renew and restore the broken place of my life. That's what God says. So I had to learn and change the identity of who I was. I always thought that I was stupid. I always thought that I didn't compare. Even though my parents didn't compare me, I did. I compared myself to my siblings. And I realized that I'm not dumb. I realized that God doesn't make and doesn't define me as dumb, but He defines me as whole. He defines me as made new. He defines me as a person that is fearfully and wonderfully made. God has given me a talent and a passion for reaching the lost, for reaching those that are broken. So God took the brokenness of my life and He turned it around. My husband Darren and I just celebrated 11 years of marriage. 11 years of an incredible marriage. A marriage of healthy, of whole. A marriage of wanting to and needing to and desiring to walk with other people who need to know that there's hope, because God is my hope, not my family, not even my husband. God is my hope. So God took the brokenness of my life, the mess of 2 marriages that failed, and He took that and He turned it around for His good, for His promises, for His kingdom. And as such, my story is now a story of reaching to help others learn how to walk a different story, learn how to be different than they've ever been in their past, learning and helping them learn who God says they are. It's no longer a story of brokenness, but it's a story of hope and peace. It's a story of a journey that God redeemed, and God took the broken places and He made it new. I am forever grateful for that story. I am forever grateful for the broken places of my life, because I no longer have to live there, but I can now take that story and I can give other people hope because of my story. It's a story of redemption. It's a story of made new. It's a story of promise. It's a story of beauty. God took the ashes of my life and He turned them into beauty. He says that when we give Him our lives, He takes our lives and He makes them into a new life. And that's what He's done for me. And He can do it for you as well. My business has been established for 2 years. I got started when God really started just talking to me about doing something different in my life. I had my own massage business for 15 and a half years. And really felt God directing me into a different path. Life coaching was birthed out of my own experience as a life coach. And so I walked through that door, starting with classes and just continuing my education and my coaching skills and just learning to be who God says that I am and what He wants me to do in life. I work a lot with women who are broken, women who have addictions, who have maybe had 10 years of sobriety, but yet struggle with low self-esteem, their identity with who God says they are, or with women who have just walked out of an addiction and who are still struggling in their addiction, and helping them to understand a little bit more how it is to walk in freedom and to not listen to the old lies, but to just basically know how to replace the lie with the truth. For me, what sets me apart from a lot of other coaches is my own personal story. My own story is a story of brokenness, of 2 failed marriages, and just understanding that there is hope in recovery, there is hope in and freedom in learning a new way of thinking and learning how to be set apart and to not necessarily listen to lies anymore, but to listen to truth. Other coaches obviously don't have the same story as I do. None of our stories are alike. But what sets me apart, really apart from that, is just the fact that I understand what it's like to walk a story of brokenness, but I also understand what it's like to walk a story of hope and redemption and freedom from that brokenness. So that sets me apart more than anything else, I would say. My main goals are to reach others, to help others to learn how to walk in freedom from addiction, to walk in freedom from their hurts, their habits, and their life hurts, their addictions of life. My main goals are to come alongside somebody and help them learn how to live a different story. We currently have a lady that is living with us who comes from brokenness, who comes from addiction. And so my husband and I, our goal is to just walk beside her, to help her learn how to unpack, like I said, the lies and how to replace those lies with truth. For us, it's all about giving back to what God has done in our lives, giving back to others those things that those stories, and helping them to learn how to live differently. Life skills, helping them learn life skills, helping them to manage money, helping them to learn how to manage a home, how to manage finances. Anything in life that it applies to life and life application is what my goal is. The other goal that I have and the other dream I have is to just be able to go and to do ministry, to share with others hope and to share with others with freedom, about freedom, going into establishments, into churches, and to share, just share my own story, my story of brokenness, but my story of redemption and of hope. So really just expanding where I'm at right now and what God really would like for me to do in the future. Where do I see my business in 5 years? Honestly, I live a day-by-day walk of faith. And so for me, my dream would be to, like I said, to go and to do public speaking, to just really help people understand what it's like to walk out of the freedom, walk out of the addiction into freedom where God says they are. I would love to be able to go into churches and to talk about the ministry that is behind life coaching, the ministry that is behind what God has called me to be and who God has called me to do, what God has called me to do. It's all about freedom. It's all about new day. It's all about a new life. And so, I would love to see coaching as a more of an established business and to be able to reach not just 4 or 5, but to reach many, many people. The financial aspects of it, I would love to see God just really producing a financial means for this business in ways that I can't imagine at this point. What keeps me motivated? Seeing lives changed. I can tell you story after story of different women that I have worked with and that I still am walking and working with every day. And what motivates me to get up every day is to know that there is hope, is to help these women to understand that they don't have to live the lie, but they can live truth. It helps me to be able to walk beside them and to help them unpack. Another lady that I've walked with a journey with for several years is helping her to understand that the abuse that she suffered as a child doesn't have to define who she is now. But what defines her is who God says she is. What defines her is knowing that God says we are made whole in His image. We can be complete. That God replaces the broken places and God gives hope. So what motivates me every day is to just be able to walk beside somebody and to share with them the good news of Jesus, to share with them the hope that God says, the hope that God has for them. What motivates me every day is to get up, to spend time with 8 grandchildren, to spend time with our adult children, to spend time with my husband of 11 years, to just really share hope of Jesus. I give back in many, many ways. I volunteer with Celebrate Recovery. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the ministry leader of Celebrate Recovery. I devote at least 10 to 15 hours weekly of just making sure that the meetings are run smoothly. I currently am leading a group of women through a step study. And the step study is it's basically walking a journey with them, helping them unpack and doing a study. It's about a 10-month study, and we meet every week. So giving back to the community. The 2 ladies that I mentioned earlier, none of them have paid me for the time that I have invested in them. What I see in my payment is seeing them learning how to live different, learning how to walk different, learning how to think differently. So do I give back to the community? Yes. I give back to the community in many, many ways that I don't get paid for. It's out of love, and it's out of what God has called me to do. I would say the most passionate thing that I have for my business is just helping to see people live a new day, to live a new life, to see them live freedom. So many of the tapes that people say that I will never be good enough, I am not good enough, the abuse that I suffered is going to define who I am for the rest of my life. And that's not true, because God says different. God says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. God says that if we accept Him as our Savior, then, which is a term that we use in the church, but if we accept Him and if we walk with Him in a new relationship, that we are a daughter of the King because He is the King. And so if I'm a daughter of the King, all of these other ladies are daughters of the King, and that means we can hold our heads up high. That means that we no longer are defined by what those tapes have said to us over and over and over again. So it motivates me. It defines who I am. It defines what these women say. It's who I am, and what I want the ladies and men to see, that they don't have to live by what they've always lived by. I can be found on my website, which is at insightlifecoaching.coachsolutions.cc. You will find me on Facebook and LinkedIn, and my phone number is also all on my website. So you can go to my website, and anything that you need to know about me is on my website. There's also testimonials on my website about different people that I have worked with, and just some of my own stories. So you can find out more information about me personally on my website.